Well, hello and welcome to my latest video. You may have seen a few weeks ago I did a review of the movie The Salt Path, the film made of Raina Wynn's book of the same name, starring Gillian Anderson and Jason Isaacs. And in my review I said that I really actually liked the book, but I didn't like the film, and there were a number of reasons why I didn't like the film. And at the end of the day I was pretty damning about the film, and I said to you, don't bother going to see it. And that opinion, incidentally, has not changed. But I thought I ought to do a little bit of a follow-up, because I'm sure if you're kind of up on general culture, you follow these kind of things, you read the papers, you look at the TV list of podcasts, you will know that there has recently blown up quite a major controversy about the book, The Salt Path, and by extension the film, but principally the book. And I thought it was perhaps a good time to reflect on that controversy and let you know my particular thoughts, and I hope you welcome them. Now, the controversy, well, actually, let me talk about the book first, because just to put that into context if you're not familiar with it. The Salt Path is a book that was written a few years ago by a lady called Raina Wynn, and it recounts a walk along the southwest coast path of Britain, about 630 miles, that she undertakes with her husband, who goes by the unlikely name of Moth. And they do this walk as a consequence of being made homeless and losing practically all of their possessions. And so they kind of think, well, we've got nowhere to live, we don't know what to do, we've got nothing else to do, we've got a couple of rucksacks, we'll get a tent, we'll do the walk, we'll wild camp. And they do this, and they complete the walk, and shortly, I can't quite remember whether it's shortly after they start the work or shortly before, Moth, Mr. Wynn, if you like, is diagnosed with a serious neurological terminal illness. So this adds to the difficulties that they face. And the book is written after the walk is completed by Raina Wynn. I enjoyed the book. I think it's a well-written book, but it became perhaps an unlikely massive bestseller, and what the Sunday Times calls an international bestseller. It sold a couple of million copies, and it was taken up by book clubs all over the place, and people loved the book. And they loved the book for a few reasons. Partly, I suppose, because it was well written. I suspect because of the kind of word of mouth that brought it to prominence as a consequence of how this walk, in a sense, saved Raina Wynn and Moth, and was a kind of redemptive walk through this massive misfortune that they had experienced, and how by undertaking the walk they come to a better place in their life, and how the walk assists Moth in some senses to at least partially overcome this serious illness that he suffers. Now, I don't want to go too much into the detail of the allegations, but I suppose one of the things that struck me both about the book and the film, and I'm not saying this as a consequence of hindsight, is that I did want, both in the book and the film, a bit more information about how exactly they got into this situation where they lost all of their money. And I did feel, in reading the book and watching the film, that there was something I wasn't being told. I know how, obviously it's possible that, there's a great tragedy or a great problem befalls you, and you can lose everything. But I think in a lot of cases, if you lose everything, there is something that you have done that contributes to your downfall. And the allegation, which has been presented by the Observer newspaper and taken up by all of the news outlets, is that Raina Wynn performed, let us say, some kind of illegality, some kind of thing that was wrong, and therefore it was a consequence of this wrongdoing, this illegality, that they lost all of their possessions. And that's not how it is presented in the book. And the other key aspect, or the other key allegation, is that Mothwin is perhaps not terminally ill, and in that this diagnosis happened some time ago, and it is now a number of years since, and the terminal diagnosis usually means you're going to succumb within at least a period of years, let's say 5 to 10 years for the sake of argument. And if you live a lot longer than that, people might think, well, actually, how terminal was this diagnosis? So, but I don't want to focus on those two particular aspects. That's kind of for other people to do, like other better commentators, better informed commentators, you might say. What I want to focus on is, to an extent, what it says about our society and what it says about how we view people like this. One of the third key allegation is that Rayner and Mothwin are not their real names. Now, you could say, well, does that matter? I mean, in a sense, I think it does matter, because one of the things that people think about the book, and one of the things that the book is presented, is that this is a true story, okay? These things happened. This was a real walk. This redemption, this way that this walk saved them, this way that this walk took them through this dark cloud that overcame them, and how they got through to the other side. And so there is a key part of that says it has to be true, because if it's not true, it all kind of, this whole house of cards kind of falls apart. And when you think about it, I mean, you don't think initially that Rayner Wynn is not her real name. You think that Moth, for fuck's sake, come on, call yourself Fred or Bob or Jermaine or Gloria or something, but Moth, come on. But Rayner Wynn, there's something about that name. There's something Glastonbury about it. There's something ecological about it. There's something nature about it. There's that combination of rain and wind, something about being in the open air, about being in the mountains, being in the hills, about going through the fields. There's something about that name that I think evokes something. Maybe not consciously, but there's something about the name that kind of speaks to the part of us that tries to be in touch with nature. And to find out that Rayner Wynn is not actually a real name, you think, that's a problem. Moth, I never thought for a minute that Moth was his real name. I thought that was ridiculous. But I'm not one of those people who reads these kind of self-help books. You know, this kind of, we can read something that's going to make our approach to life better, that's going to help us understand ourselves. I think that's, at the end of the day, I think that's nonsense. I think it's bollocks. But for a large number of people, it is a thing. They do like to read these books. They do get something from them. They do learn things about the world. They learn things about themselves, and they learn them through these books. And those books are very, very important to people. It speaks to them in a key, fundamental way. And it spoke to millions of people who bought the book. And it's for those people that I feel desperately sorry for, and also desperately angry that they've been cheated, they've been shafted, they've been lied to in some fundamental way. Now, for me, it doesn't change the walk that they did. There's no suggestion that they didn't walk this 630 miles. There's no kind of suggestion, I think, that they didn't experience some of the hardships along the way, that they didn't have much money while they were doing the walk. I don't think any of that is suggested as being untrue. But if the heart of the book, in other words, the reason that they undertook this redemptive walk in the first place is based on a false premise, it's built on sand, then you have a real problem. And there is a scene in the film, I can't quite remember whether it's in the book, but they camp, they pitch their tent on the beach. And big surprise, I mean, the sea comes in, it's the middle of the night, and their tent is about to be washed away, and they pick up their tent and they run up the beach, and Gillian Anderson as Raina Wynn says, leave the tent. And Jason Isaac as Moth says, no, it's our home, it's all we have. And they carry this tent up the beach and so forth. Now, if you imagine that the book is the tent, all right, and the book has been set up on the beach. It's been set up on the sand. It seems it's clear, it's dry. The sea is way out to sea. The sea is way out away from the land. And this is the book. It's solid. It's established. The tent pegs have been hammered into the ground. But then it turns out that the waves come in and the tent is washed away and all the possessions are washed away. That's the truth of the book that is being washed away, and that is the insult. That is the kick in the balls. That is the punch in the face that Raina Wynn, whose name is not Raina Wynn, it's not rain, it's not wind, it's Sally Walker, right? The common people, Sally Walker. Who is Sally Walker? She is a woman who built a book based on lies. Now, Penguin Random House, who published the book, and the movie company who optioned the book and made the film, you think, well, what did you think about the truth of this book? What checks did you make as to whether this book was actually true before you printed it and put, a true story and so forth, whatever it is? What checks did you make? And how many millions of quid has Penguin Random House made? And how many millions of quid, I don't know whether the film has been a massive success, but how many millions of pounds have been made, and how many millions of pounds have Raina and Moth made on the back of this book? And what is going to happen to them now? Do they have to start paying the money back to, these millions of people who bought the book who've now been cheated? There's one thing it particularly reminds me of, actually, and that is the whole Captain Tom situation. Now, I know that is slightly different in the sense that there was no suggestion that Captain Tom was in some way, that he didn't do the walk, that he was some kind of fraud in quotation marks. And I say in quotation marks because I'm not saying that Sally Walker and her husband are frauds. I'm saying that perhaps there's an allegation that some of what they did is fraudulent. But the family around Captain Tom and what they did and how it kind of totally undermined, totally destroyed, totally pissed on Captain Tom's memory, and what Raina Wynn, aka Sally Walker, and Moth Wynn, aka I don't know, but presumably Mr. Walker, have done is they have pissed on their story, on their memory, and how the book is about how they suffer the slings and arrows of misfortune. But if it turns out that these slings were ones they threw at themselves, and the arrows turned out to be arrows that they had in their quiver, that they shot themselves in the foot and in the face with, then those slings and arrows of outrageous misfortune, that's not something that's done to them from outside. That's something that's done to them from inside. That's something that they've done. So in terms of the culture, the modern culture, books are important, right? Books are key. Lots of people still read books, but lots of people don't read books. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. If people want to get their information or their knowledge or their entertainment from YouTube or Instagram or Snapchat or whatever it is, as opposed to books, I'm not one of those people who thinks, oh, that's a terrible thing. But I am one of those people who thinks that books are important. We need books. We should have books. And books that are supposed to be true should be true. And if they'd presented this as a work of fiction, nobody would care, but they presented it as a work of fact. And if it turns out not to be fact, then I, for one, who never thought the film was any good, I thought the film was shite, frankly. But the book was good, and now I'm feeling dirty, all right? my hands, I'm like, is it Lady Macbeth? I can't get the stench of lies off my hand. I can't wash away the nonsense that Raina Wynn, aka Sally Walker, has done to the culture, the literature, the way we want to believe in people, the way we want to believe in things. She's pissed on it, all right? And I don't like that. And I'm not happy about it. And I hope they get their comeuppance in some way. And there is a price to pay for this behaviour. Now, they say, I should add, they've released a statement to the Observer and to the general press. They haven't denied the allegations. They've said they're taking legal advice about the allegations. So I'm not repeating those allegations. These are allegations made by the Observer. I don't know whether they're true, but if they're true, then I'm sullied. I'm dirty. I've got skid marks on my brain. They've shat on me from a great height, and I don't like it. Thanks for watching. See you next time.